So last time, episode 21, Urgra introduced Rin to one of her rituals that she learned from her time with the orc tribe, specifically from her mother, to sort of honor the dead, to make sure you were not haunted. Finley met up with a dwarfist and was inducted into Banff, and also left a ukulele for his now infant daughter, Melody. After that, we went over to Candoria proper, and Rin met with Vincent, the revenant librarian, who he forewarned about the breaking of the sky, the aurora borealis, and all that stuff, and came to learn that Vincent took a little bit of initiative and made himself out to be a bit of a prophet, trying to get some extra credit. And as opposed to getting angry or anything like that, Rin spun it in a way that said, okay, I have no problem with you doing this, but just make sure that, essentially, he laid it out that obviously you're not a prophet and you have all your information is coming from me, so don't screw this up. More or less. After that, outside the Revenant, we met a charming man named Douglas, who was a student who really liked getting stoned. And
I like him.
After that, we went over to the temple where Kurtz got fitted out with a freaking bitchin' set of armor. Like for level 1, it was absolutely absurd. He is currently only wearing the helmet. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, don't forget, Finley got some of them drug beads.
Oh, he did get some drug beads.
Yeah, cat eye marbles or something.
Cat's eye marbles.
Tide pods.
I forgot about those.
Yeah.
But yeah, but Kurtz is currently just wearing the helmet, which automatically gives him true sight, which is, pretty good for level 1.
That's all right.
And then we decided to go to Mount Vatum, a place in the Bane where we were told that a old adversary, Magma Jaw, was competing in some sort of one-on-one, some sort of fighting event. And so, knowing we were going to the dwarves, we picked up some alcohol just to say a friendly hello, and we traveled there. We arrived, wasn't much security. And so we just walked into what appeared to be a giant mountain fortress and followed the sounds to a bar, as you do. And the bar was conveniently attached to a giant, coliseum underground where Magma Jaw was hyping up the crowd. Scrimtoe, one of the dwarven brother leaders of the mountain dwarves, was also there. And in short order, a Hydra was unleashed. And apparently Magma Jaw is going to take it out by himself. An ancient Hydra,
Yes.
So we're going to see what this dwarf is made of, either literally or fighting-wise.
All right, a bit to recap. Go ahead.
Last time, episode 22 on HotA. The party was in Mount Vatum Forge watching the dwarf Magma Jaw take on an ancient Hydra single-handedly. After a decisive victory, Kurtz jumped into the ring and asked Magma Jaw how he was able to wield two-handed weapons single-handedly. Kurtz was then rebuffed because dwarves are racist. We then sought out the master blacksmith, Jadmalin Bluntthorn, about golden horseshoes for our pony Fergus. After dispelling some troublesome runes on her forges placed by Duragar, we were given a missive to the hill dwarfs in Valkenheim to parlay for their adamantine stores in exchange for finished products. We also saw that the one-armed Tabaxi Ravage was imprisoned by the dwarves for a one-man cat invasion of the dwarven territory. While the party was trying to come up with whether we should actually try to bust him out and risk our good relation with the dwarves, we decided to try using one of the legendary artifacts that we knew very little about. Kurtz activated a necklace of a nautilus and was turned into a literal squid. See Ammonite Pokemon. We were able to put him into a water barrel, and he stopped actively dying. So just another day at level 1.
Yeah.
I love the
4 weeks of level 1.
That was great. Some of the verbiage was great.
Awesome.
Finley did sneak into a hole behind the statue.
That's true.
And he did find a new Transcendental relic. What was that, Finley, that you found?
Oh man, just being my inquisitive / curious / shiny thing self. Finley found a secret little area that I crept into. I also got some papers. There wasn't really anything all that particular on it, but inside this box, we did find a little bracelet-looking thing with little bit ladybugs on it. And we soon figured out, I believe AJ, our wizard Rin, did some identification on it, perhaps a little bit, to realize it was another artifact weapon, or I think we did. Not too sure, but we at least came to terms of we're pretty sure that's what it does. But Finley, being the ever fashion guru that he is, it didn't really feel not so much of a bracelet as more of an anklet. So
Yep.
that's where I got it. I'm not gonna put my foot up on screen, but it's on there. It's on there now, so it's adorable.
So, last week, episode 23, we were in Mount Fatoon, the mountain dwarf stronghold, and we started off with having our fighter Kurtz having been turned into a squid, unexpectedly. And we were in the middle of trying to figure out how to break out a Tabaxi ally while he was a squid. And so we put our heads together, we tried to figure out where the weaknesses of the security were, and it turned out we were able to use Kurtz in his Nautilus form to break the lock on the door, because he had a compounding poison sting attack, like a tentacle or something. Mm-hmm. And he was able to break open the lock, and with the use of illusion and subterfuge, we were able to sneak the cat out of the mountain, and he was able to get away back to freedom.
Okay.
Yeah. Kurtz was able to turn back after, I think, 6 hours or so. And the next morning, we were able to get the treaty from the Master Smith Bluntthorn to take to the Hill Dwarves, as she was interested in their store of adamantine. Mm-hmm. And so we traveled to Valkenheim, where we delivered the treaty to Hilera Brightcoat, a Hill Dwarf who apparently was very interested in the arcane. We also met the narcoleptic Ateros Stone Rest, aptly named. And we were going over, trying to learn stuff about the Hill Dwarves versus the Mountain Dwarves and all that fun stuff, when all of a sudden an earthquake started. Mm-hmm. And we learned that apparently not only the Mountain Dwarves, but also the Hill Dwarves were having problems with invasions from the Duragar, Underdark Dwarves. And so as the earthquakes continued to happen during our visit, we were rushed down to where we believed that the Durgar were attacking, when all of a sudden there was a cave-in. And as that was happening, Kurtz and Durgar, through no small risks to their own lives, saved Ateros Storm Rest, and we found ourselves in some giant underground cavern surrounded by dead bodies, and we were then started to be attacked by some giant glowing beetle, and that's where we left off.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we had journeyed to the hill dwarf city of Valkenheim, and it turns out we were underground trying to make connections, and there was an earthquake, and we stole one hill dwarf who was about to die from a crashing boulder named Stone Rest. Kurtz and Urgra pulled him out, saved his life, only to find that not only was he narcoleptic, he was also completely useless in battle. So, we found ourselves in an underground cavern being attacked by these giant fire beetles, and we were able to handily defeat them, but we were now in a place where we were not familiar. Luckily, we had Stone Rest, who did serve us somewhat as a guide. So we took a abandoned mining cart and started going through the caverns. I had a little trouble with bats, but, they were still mostly good kind of creatures. And then we discovered what had only been rumored before, Duragar, underground deep dwarves that apparently have been given both the mountain dwarves and the hill dwarves a lot of grief. We entered combat, whereupon one of them became giant, or technically large by 5e rules. But yeah, he hit really hard and he took down our dear Kurtz Glasscan, almost killed him. But luckily we were able to get some healing to him before that happened. And then we took his unconscious body. Is he dead or unconscious, guys? I think he's just unconscious.
What? Oh, the Durgar? Yeah, he's unconscious.
That's what I thought. So we have him for questioning, and we returned to the Hill Dwarf base to our new friend, Miss Brightcoat. And we were explaining everything and just giving some intel when Rin decided that an aforementioned book of hers, his little wizard heart just couldn't let it pass by, so we sent one of his unseen servants to tear out all the pages and replace them with just blank paper. Certainly won't be noticed. Okay. For him to peruse later, and they're now currently in his backpack. And so as we were talking, this happened, but also what happened is our new friend, Mr. Stone Rest,
suddenly disappeared rather conspicuously. Due to Urgra's ranger nature, she was able to track him, and that led them to an underground river. Whereupon Kurtz took the initiative and turned himself into his Nautilus form.
Okay.
And we are currently in pursuit.
Awesome. So that's where we left off. You three. We've been building up to finishing this first year. So when we started the campaign, they were level 20, and they were taking place 20 years after a major event happened in the world. They went through it. They fought the Fourth Horsemen, got their asses handed to them, and they thought they were just on the brink of death, but they were pulled into the void. And Alundra had saved them, and they were sent into the past, where they could travel the previous 20 years to try to figure out all the clues and figure out how to get back to the present and be able to move on and defeat that Fourth Horseman. So it's a little bit different way of running a Dungeons & Dragons game. This is 5th edition. It's all homebrew. So we are on episode 26, and they decided to go back to year 1 for their first time jump. And we've been playing the last several episodes going through this first week, and we are very, very close. We are at the last part of day 6, so we'll wrap this part up, we'll do the rest, and then we'll start on the last day of the week, and hopefully we can get to the void so you guys can do your second year. So that's kind of a general recap, but what is a more specific recap? What happened last episode on Horsemen of the Apocalypse?
Yes. So we were in Valkenheim, the Hill Dwarf settlement, and we had just figured out that one of our acquaintances, Stonerest, had apparently just sort of pieced out rather suspiciously after an earthquake. And so we decided to follow him, and thanks to Urgra's amazing tracking, they found that he jumped in a river and just apparently disappeared. Thanks to Kurtz transforming into his Nautilus form, he was able to see that apparently there was this sort of underwater current tunnel that he was able to swim through, but luckily he was able to find what apparently was some sort of mechanism that allowed a rope to be just pulled through the tunnel, preventing someone from having to kill themselves trying to swim against a ridiculously powerful current. And so eventually the rest of the party got there. However, sadly, it was too late to find Stonerest, despite Kurtz's admirable Nautilus charm effects. And so we tried a couple of things, but we could not get through the door. So we went back, let our Hill Dwarf friends know that, hey, something's sketchy here. Also, the Duragar, the Underdark version of dwarves, had giant boxes of dynamite, which were already empty. So, hey, maybe that's part of your problem. So we passed that along, and then we decided to go visit Tabaxi, as Urgra had said that she would visit them before the week was up. And we met with their shaman of sorts, a cheetah named Menoir.
Yep, Menoir. Yep.
Eh. And so they were learning some of the history of that, and they found out that apparently there had been some issues with monster attacks, I believe. Is that what we heard?
You heard that people were coming out of the forest with cuts and scrapes that were abnormally... Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so we may be taking a look at that, but in the meanwhile, Kurtz, as he is wont to do, wandered off on his own and found what effectively was the harem of the leader of the Tabaxi. He was encountered the guard of the concubines, who is a tiger, who is named Tai, and they seem to have some common ground. And
no,
that's
he's a lion.
What? We had a whole
Yeah. So that was
not
something
on
I wanted
fire.
to clarify. Yeah. So he's a lion. This is
that's
the
just
lion
confusing.
village you guys are in. So he's also a lion, but his name is.
Not gonna lie, I wrote down tiger, but that's okay.
So-
There was the whole Tai the tiger thing.
Exactly. So that's something I was thinking about during that our little absence was you guys were laughing about it, and I wasn't sure why. He's a
No worries.
lion whose name is Ty.
Yep, easy enough.
That makes it even stupider.
All right. Well, in that case, Kurtz was just talking over with Ty, and that's kind of where we left off, I believe.
Okay.
But also buried the music box, didn't we?
Yes!
Yes.
So, like, on the
They
first
did.
day of year one, still the first day, but, like, 4th episode of year one, we were able to collect a music box from a shady organization, and it was apparently just like this little sprite statue saying, "Free me, free me." We were kind of skeptical, and we kind of put it in our bag of holding, just forgetting about it.
Okay.
However, with Kurtz's amazing new armor that gives him true sight, he was able to see that the sprite was actually a green hag. And so we decided to not free her, and we actually just buried her in the woods adjacent to the capital of Candoria. And we'll check on her every year or so. Make
Best
sure.
course of action. So.
Yeah. We did. So last episode on HotA, episode 26, we were talking to Memoir, the Tabaxi kind of shaman of the Shroud, and we found that he was trying to give us a quest, take care of like whatever monsters were attacking the villagers that were causing slashing wounds, and he said the reward would be what's called a Sister Stone, which none of us had ever heard before. So there are 3 goddesses in our world, and one of them, Salvadine, the Tabaxi goddess, is associated with green, and so he offered us this floating green stone that he himself had one that would float around his head and added sort of magical properties. And so that got Urger's attention as well as several other parties, and we agreed to proceed with the mission. It turned out to be a couple of Vine Blights who, after we were able to defeat them, I don't think. Oh yeah, Finley, did you fall out or did you actually die? No, it was just you just.
Oh yeah, I got hard knocks, bro.
No one ever died.
You got a wooden-
That's right. We're only
wooden-
level
It was straight to
Oh,
the
chest.
chest.
That's what it was. Yeah, in the chest.
There's no
Straight to my
backup
heart.
at level 1. But yeah, Finley went down. But we were able to bring him up and defeat the Vine Blights. And after some investigation, we found that apparently these Blights were created through a manifestation of the Horseman's power that was accumulating but hadn't quite gotten to the point where they could materialize. So we took that information back to the Shroud, and we got our Salvadine Sister Stone, and when asked who is the most faithful to the goddess Salvadine, Urgra volunteered Finley.
Because why not?
Yeah.
And after a little bit of an interview between the Tabaxi and himself, Finley was bestowed with a Sister Stone of Salvadine, increasing his dexterity, and being informed that apparently it is an item that could be leveled up. And the more he uses it, the more powerful it will become. And it has something called, what is it called? Energy Surge. We have no idea what that is, but it can
Nope.
do it.
Nope.
And so that's something we're looking forward to.
Yep.
And
Figure
after
it
that, we had completed our first week in the time travel, and we traveled back to the Void with Elundra. And after exchanging a little bit of information, not so much on her side, we asked to proceed to tier 2 just to keep things consecutive for now. And that is where we left off. Sure. So episode 27. We had decided to go sequentially from year 1 to year 2 in the history of Candoria. And we started to try and pick the pieces that we left behind in year 1. We had defeated a witch trapped in the music box. We buried her. We wanted to make sure she was still there. There was no sign of nothing there. And also, none of us had any of the shit we had when we left. And so we came to the conclusion that apparently time is going to flow in the same stream as what we remember before we interfered. And this entire time travel event thing is just for us to gather information. Nothing that we do will have any lasting repercussions on what time flows through, except a few special items that transcend time and space, including some blue orbs, some pieces of tablets that Kurt's are interested in, as well as some, I can never remember the transcendental, what are these freaking items called?
Relics.
Transedial relics.
Okay.
As well as Sister Stones.
Yes.
I was getting there.
Okay, sorry.
I believe we were just doing this. That had nothing to do with anything. You were fine. We were just getting hyped.
It was
for
just
the game.
super hot, and this seemed a good way to remedy that.
And
So,
there may be many more.
Mhm. So, having discovered that and dealing with a couple of existential crises from numerous players, we decided to venture forth into the capital. And we found at the site of the temple, our old friend Nia Lin, who is the head rival of Tavaria, the head priestess, was staging an open protest trying to get Tavaria rescinded from the head priestess position. Seeing that the crowd was not going in her favor, Urgra and Kurtz kind of whisked her away with a promise that some bigwig supporter of Alundra who was chosen by the gods, wanted to speak with her immediately. She believed us, and we got her out of there before she could be assassinated or some other horrible fate.
Okay.
We met up with the other two in the Red Dragon Inn. At that point, Rin and Finley had found several characters, one of which was our dice gambler, who actually had a item that we were looking for, a piece of a stone tablet that sort of holds the history of what happened to the goddesses when they first left. And so Kurz was very interested in that, as well as some very creepy clown-dressed harlequin figure who didn't speak, just sort of giggled and chuckled and played with his hands to make rags into a perfect marionette likeness of Finley. And so upon arriving with Nylin, we got a little illustration. Oh yeah, there he is.
It gets edited.
I gotta be honest, my art is getting more and more on point as we go.
Oh yeah, the inking
couldn't
is
see
much
it,
better.
it
We can actually
out.
see it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of shading. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue. You're good.
So, while Rin and Finley and I think myself went into the pantry to privately speak to Nylin, she informed us that she is still very much against Devaria, and apparently there is some big feast happening tonight. And she had an idea that if someone were to sneak into Devaria's private quarters and find some dirt, maybe discredit her, all of this could be put behind us and everything would be hunky-dory. And since she seemed to have a lot of information, we agreed to meet her later that evening so she could give us the information and we could make our best attempt to break into a temple.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Finley was interacting with this harlequin fellow and just generally being creeped out. And so he sent Kurtz out. Kurtz's patience didn't last super long, and he started to attack the harlequin, who just popped out of reality a few times, completely dodging every single attack, and eventually disappeared entirely, but left behind a single little chibi plushy doll of Finley. Finley immediately fell in love at first sight, and he calls him Finny Me.
Pity me.
Finny Me. We eventually played the dice game and won, getting the piece of the tablet that we wanted. And in the meantime, also,
you also won something as well.
Oh my gosh, I did! I won a total makeover ninja skin for my character. It's gonna be super awesome, y'all. But we also got another little side quest for a dwarf and halfling who apparently were distracted by a couple of lavender little itty-bitty mini dragons who were playing with a blue orb, and while they were distracted, those dragons' friends stole their entire cargo, and they asked for us to get it back. Okay. And so, being the generous souls that we are, and plus Finley really likes blue balls, we decided to go ahead and follow through on that thread. However, on our way there, we all collectively blacked out. And three of us, Kurtz, Rin, and myself, woke up in the dark, apparently with strings attached to our limbs, not able to move. Okay. And Finley woke up at a table directly across from the same harlequin figure who had pestered him that very same day. That is where we left off. Okay. Last week on episode 28 of Horsemen of the Apocalypse, we woke up in a bit of a sticky situation. Rin, Kurtz, and myself were all kind of...
Thanks for the follow.
We were rather tied up with puppet strings on a little harlequin stage, and our favorite bard, Finley, was going mano a mano against some super creepy clown character from our deepest nightmares. And they played a little game where they would be drawing cards, and he would have to assign them either to the clown or to himself, and they're trying apparently to make some sort of deck. And it didn't take us very long to find out that they were drawing cards from the deck of many things. And so after some very suspenseful stuff, talking between all of us players as well as the group chat, which was very helpful, we got our two decks decided, and then we found out that the test was just making the decks and trying to make Finley shit himself. Yeah.
Did we succeed, Finley?
However, there were some rewards. First of all, the deck was left on the table. We collected them, but later found out that they were not magical. They were just sort of just a deck of many things that without the awesomeness. But more importantly, left behind was a mask similar to the one that the Harlequin was wearing that Finley decided to pocket. and
Sure.
that may be coming up later on. After that, we found ourselves, we opened the doors to this weird pocket dimension we found ourselves in, and we found ourselves in the city of Naporia. Apparently, we had missed an entire day of our week.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
Yep.
We talked to the first person we met, which happened to be the mayor, Mayor Goodman. Seemed a little off. He seemed
Santa.
super chipper about everything, not a care in the world, which in our post-apocalyptic world just rings so wrong. We were able to find, however, that apparently his confidence came from one habitant of the town, who goes by the name of the Runecaster, who lives near the waterfall. So naturally, we traveled there, and we found out that this Runecaster is an undead big baddie. He tried to kind of paint himself as, evil's just another side of the coin of good. You can't have one without the other, all that sort of thing. And he offered his services to answer any questions we had, although he warned us that any questions asked would come with a price, if not now, then eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And so 3 of us took him up on his offer. Kurtz asked, what is the location that the first horseman appears in year 5? And we found out that was going to be in Kelna. I feel like, Finley, you asked something. I didn't write it down.
Oh gosh, what did I ask?
He did ask
Definitely-
something. I don't remember what it was.
It was something less consequential.
Yeah, it was something really small, and we're like, why didn't you use that as your question?
Yeah, I think I just want to know where the fairy dragons were because they had a blue
I think you did.
ball
Yeah, that's
thing
right.
that I wanted to
Yep.
play with.
Yep, that's right.
That's
Yes.
it.
So
Yep.
you asked that, and once Urgra got the Runecaster alone, she asked about were Kurtz's 2 daughters still alive, as he thought they were dead and burned in the fire. She learned that they were still alive and indeed still on this plane of existence,
Mhm.
and that they were safe, but no other information, even all the powers of evil, could provide to our party. And so with that, knowing where the fairy dragons were, who had the blue orb that Finley so wants to collect, we went there. We came across a freaking hive of little fey dragons.
Okay.
And we eventually were able to get the orb as well as 2 chests of stolen goods that we were charged to get out of their cave, just getting nicked over and over and over again.
Thanks for the follow.
And
that must have sucked for you guys.
yeah. Anyway, we got out of the cave, and after getting a safe distance away from the cave, we decided to camp down to the night before traveling back to Candoria. Last time,
Episode 29.
we returned back to Candoria proper, the capital, with the lost loot that had been taken by the fairy dragons, as well as one of the fairy dragons themselves, kept in Kurtz's 25-pound chest. On our entrance, we ran into an old friend named Nylin, a dwarf, who is trying to get someone to help her find a lost friend. However, as we had pressing business, Finley gathered the quick information and we continued on with what we were doing. So we went to the Revenant and traded the fairy dragon in exchange for teleportation into the private chambers of the High Priestess Tavaria.
Okay.
So Rin, myself, and Finley teleported into what we at first thought was the wrong room because it was so freaking small and unassuming.
Okay.
We turned that place over the best we knew how. We found nothing. However, at a strange turn of events, Kurtz, who had been sent to make sure Tavaria didn't go back to her rooms, ran into our old friend, what's it? Nylin? Yeah. Nylin, who is Tavaria's adversary, and punched her when she was getting a little too uppity. And Tavaria asked him to explore Alundra's old chambers, which had been left completely untouched since she disappeared. Kurtz did this and discovered a few interesting things, including a diary, as well. It was a diary and what else? There was one other thing. That was the main thing, though.
Dick.
Do you have another thing?
Sure.
Oh, that you found? The what?
Yeah, he found a diary, but there was no sign of the staff or the necklace that he was supposed to try and find.
Okay.
Right.
And in the diary, it actually said that Alundra sold those 2 priceless artifacts in order to fund her journey.
No,
However,
the staff,
when
the staff,
Was I
the
thinking
necklace was given to Nylin
That's
according
right.
to the journal.
Yeah, to be repaired. Yeah, that's right.
Or washed.
The other thing that was found, probably more important than all three of those items that you're forgetting, is Alundra's nightgown. That's the one that was top notch. That was a good pickup there. So regardless of diaries and staffs and shit, that was the big pickup. Continue, Connor.
Yeah, that's a quantum item, Connor. God.
It is now. Yes,
It is. So, negligee aside, Kurtz, upon taking a second read at that diary, realized that there was no mention of his family, and knowing that, no, I'm not going to do it, Alundra, his wife, were very good friends, he found this very suspicious, and also when he shared this with the rest of the group, we thought that, hey, Tavares sent him to go into this room and he found a diary where it implicates her two biggest political enemies. Maybe this isn't quite as kosher as we think. So we put that in our heads. Other than that, though, we agreed to meet back up with Raylin, and we agreed to help her on her journey into the Bane territory to try and find this lost cheetah tabaxi who has been missing for over 24 hours, apparently exploring a dwarven burial ground that she will not tell us what is special about it. So, lucky us, we're going in blind to try and save a cat, as adventurers are wont to do. Last week, episode 30, we were in Candoria, the capital, and we had been contacted by Raylin, our old dwarven friend, saying that her tabaxi friend Buttons was missing in a dwarven cemetery that he was exploring. So, being the good adventurers we are, we decided to help her out. So we traveled there, and we discovered, without too much trouble, the remains of the temple, of the cemetery, graveyard, crypt, something like that. And it turns out it was a cave. Who would have thought?
Yay!
Yay.
Caves.
So many caves in this game, y'all.
Fucking caves, man.
Should call it cavemen of the apocalypse.
Just caves and no dragons. That's what this game is.
Caves and dragons.
It's just dungeons.
No dragons.
Caves.
It's caves and champions. We got CAC.
Yeah.
Caves and horsemen.
But the cave seemed pretty deserted, except we noticed that some of the religious figures had been disfigured. What's the word I want? Defaced. Desecrated, sure.
Desecrated, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a little odd. We further explored, not finding too many people until we got further into the cave where we found a tabaxi matching the description of said Buttons.
There was a couple things in the entrance when you guys first got in there.
Oh, what were they?
Hyenas.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah! Her horse almost died.
I remember the hyenas.
That's true, we did battle.
Remember that? I remember.
I got the scars to prove it.
Yeah, so we came up across basically two different packs of hyenas.
Okay.
That Urgra tried to kill the one who woke up, but turns out he let out a death yelp, which woke everything else up. So we battled, then they doubled in number. Finley tried to put on his cursed object for the first time, his mask.
Yep. Mask of the mad one?
Yep, and he got into it. He was making some jewelry from the remains of hyenas. He had got over his blood thing real quick.
Okay.
But then further on, we did find Buttons, who was tied up and being basically accosted by this dwarven male, a mountain dwarf. And when we were able to turn the tables, the mountain dwarf called for reinforcements from Duragar, who are supposed to be major enemies for mountain dwarves. So that was a little disheartening. So Kurtz quickly killed the mountain dwarf when he was unable to defend himself, and we tried to retreat deeper into the cave to find an alternate exit. Turns out that was a dead end, of which we did not have the key. So we did a little ring around the rosy. We used some illusion to try and buy some time, and we found an alternate exit, which all of us went through, except for Finley. He's still wearing the mask of the Mad One. Decided to basically do just a middle finger to I think it was like 12 Duragar who had showed up, and he decided to try out his never tried before Transdial relic, the anklet of the ladybugs.
Okay.
And upon using it, there was a flash of light. And all that was left of Finley was like a loaf of bread that was like a larva / pupa.
Okay.
Couldn't move. Couldn't talk. Maybe could see. And yeah, it had some fun little things where it could create ladybugs that it would basically poop out. And so that's what he did. He pooped out ladybugs that then attacked the Duragar, attacking them with lightning damage. And luckily, so noticing that Finley didn't come back, the rest of us came out and we were eventually able to figure out that, hey, Kurt's turned into an animal. Maybe this animal is Finley, and there were some ladybugs floating around him. So we
Make sure to subscribe.
We put two and two together, and we grabbed him, and we ran out to the hidden exit, and we found ourselves about halfway up the mountain where the cemetery was, with no sign of Buttons or our dwarven friend who had left a little bit before us while we went to go collect our bard. So that's where we are. It's also 10 o'clock at night, and some of us don't have dark vision.
That's right. So we're